This is very interesting. So Côte d'Azur GLE63 Coupe. This is the 22-inch wheel, 22-inch multi-spokes, which is very rare to see. So yeah, this is wild. I love this. Côte d'Azur GLE63 S Coupe, 22-inch multi-spoke wheels, which I like because this is the wheel that you never see. Everybody always does the cross-spoke wheels, and I can see that this has got Bahia brown interior, the flowing lines wood trim. What a beautiful car. Oh my goodness. 145, 645. So yeah, the Côte d'Azur, Bahia brown, piano lacquer, driver assistance, acoustic comfort package. So as we mentioned, I don't think the keys are in here, but acoustic comfort package is going to be that double thick S-Class glass with a little bit of more UV reflection, dash cam trailer hitch. This is a really pretty car. And this was, okay, yeah, this was our car. Oh, wow. This paint, very luxurious. It's like a silvery blue, gorgeous. It's been very well received, and I love the way that it turned out on this car here. I don't know, it looks like it's sold detailed and that it might be getting ready to be pulled in the showroom, but I don't know if this was sold while I was out of town or what, but just absolutely stunning car. No night package on this one, so plenty of chrome all throughout. Let me know, what do you think? Is this too luxurious for an AMG? Or do you like the duality of the sports car and the luxury vibe? I'm here for it. I dig this one. All right. Morning. Have you seen this yet, the Black Series? This is definitely the miliest CLK63 Black Series in the country, but that's okay. That means that it's at a price point that's much more attainable for somebody that wants to buy and drive and enjoy this car, because normally these have pretty low miles. This one's got like 74,000, 78,000 miles, one of the two. So it definitely puts it at a price point that's much more, I mean, this is like probably 50, 60 grand less than one with super low miles, but right? One of my absolute favorite cars of all time. And I just think that this look is iconic, kind of the dual headlights. These lines still look good today for a car that is almost 20 years old, right? I mean, it's iconic. It will always look good. So this one, you know, we just need a couple things to touch up, get it cleaned up a little bit. So yeah, it's good. It's a car that's been driven. It's not going to be a showroom museum piece, but it's beautiful. It's in great shape. Mechanically, it's sound. And yeah, I'm excited to see where this one goes. I would love if we could find somebody to keep it local, but who knows. But yeah, absolutely love the CLK. All right, so Adam, tell me about what makes this car so special. How much more valuable is a gated manual than an automatic?
Like twice.
Isn't that nuts? It's literally, oh, there it is. Literally twice as valuable to have the gated manual versus an automatic now. And a couple years ago, that wouldn't have been true.
No, and especially back, all these V10 manual cars, the Vipers, the R8s.
Wow, look at that. The lime green engine cover. Oh, and you've got the matching calipers.
Yeah, this guy got this car in the era of Lamborghini kind of starting to do wacky accent colors.
Yep.
So he wanted his car to stand out.
Wow, look at that. And he's got the matching accents. It's got a roll cage.
And he put a little half cage, which is cool because it's a bolt in, bolt out. So if you don't want it, it's a couple bolts on either side and you can just take it right out.
It looks really nice.
He literally did that just for the pop of color, which I think is
good. Carbon fiber side blades, carbon fiber rear spoiler and diffuser.
We also have the OEM ones.
So what's different about the GT taillights versus
just
OEM?
Different design.
Okay.
These are a little neater looking, and I agree.
Very cool. Wow, this is a really pretty car. How many miles on it again?
17,000.
17,000. So carbon fiber everywhere. Oh yeah, interior engine lights for the
engine bay lights.
Engine bay lights up there. Whoa!
Oh.
More engine lights. Thanks, Bill. Holy cow! Look at these. Okay. I think they liked green. Yeah. Just beautiful.
Neat car. He even got custom floor mats with the green embroidery around the side.
Yeah. Look at that.
Shift knob. It's not overkill. It's very tasteful.
No, I agree. It is tastefully done. Interior looks really clean.
And if you don't like the lights, you can just shut them off.
Yeah, exactly. Right. The lights do not stay on automatically. They can be turned off. This is a really. And so, what kind of wheels do we have here? Do you know maker of this wheel?
I don't remember. I have it written down. We also have the stock wheels. I like these cars because I have a room now full of car parts, OEM car parts. I've got exhausts and wheels and all the stuff that comes with these cars that people just throw in another car and take with them, which I think is a really cool add-on.
So OEM or aftermarket wheels for me, always very hit and miss. I think sometimes they're way too over the top. I think this is a tasteful wheel. I can't remember that vintage of R8, what the stock wheel looked like.
The wheels are iffy.
Yeah. So this is a 20-inch, 325s in the rear, that's very meaty. I'm guessing it's going to be quite a bit smaller in the front, but I think this is still looks like a 20-inch wheel up front too. Still a 20-inch wheel, 245s in the front. That's an 80-millimeter difference between front and rear. Yeah. That's pretty significant.
Very common on cars like this. One thing that I will say is that thickness of this wheel, because this car is on coilovers, the first generation R8.
Yep.
They had a suspension system that very commonly failed.
Okay.
So you can either fix it, and then it'll inevitably break again, or you can bite the bullet and just put coilovers on the car.
Okay.
So the last R8 that we had, if you remember the gray V8 automatic car, that one had a blown out suspension. I sent it to a shop and put coilovers on it. And it's just like this. So they look great, and you won't have a leaky spring issue again.
Good. And this is not a Quattro, is that right?
No.
Yeah. So this is a rear-wheel drive car. So, yeah, look, I know that Audi fanatics love the Quattro all-wheel drive system, and it's a great system, there's no doubt about it. This car is a proper rear wheel. I mean, there's so many cool things about this. Rear-wheel drive, V10, gated manual. I'm not surprised that they have done what they've done as far as value is concerned.
Only one way that these cars go, and it's up.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
And I think that we are going to continue to see that happen with cars like this. I mean, the market lately on anything like this, some of the older Ferraris, the ACR have just literally in the last month gone ballistic. So stuff like this, it's just, they don't make anything like this anymore, right? Naturally aspirated V10, it's wild.
In between people wanting them and having always dreamt of them and such limited availability, and the number of nice examples is so shrunk down from what it used to be.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that any of these cars that are like this, these manual, big displacement, big motor cars are going to go anywhere in terms of price. I don't think anything ever comes out that's cheaper in a V10 with a manual in it.
Yeah, and who knows if they'll ever make anything quite like this ever again. There's a few manufacturers that I wouldn't be surprised if they, I think BMW is committed to staying with manual transmissions in limited quantities, which is smart. And I've even heard that Subaru wants to start making manual cars again.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that manufacturers are definitely seeing that there is a demand there. I mean, people ask all the time, they're like, why aren't they making manuals anymore? Why aren't they making S Coupe and Cabriolet anymore? Like all these, and what you have to understand is that the amount of millions and even billions of dollars that go into R&Ding cars like this to have such a low take rate is why, like the S Coupe, yeah, we all wish that they still made that, but very few people bought them, right?
Well, back in the day, if you remember the Vipers, so you could go to a Dodge dealer and get a custom paint to sample 2017 ACR Extreme. They would, if you wanted to, if you signed up for the program, I think it was 10 grand on those cars.
Yeah.
They would send you 3 samples of your paint that you could either approve, and if you can't come to an agreement, they'll send you, hey, these are the colors that you can get since we can't get yours right.
Yep.
And they would discount those cars 10, 12, 15% off of MSRP.
Oh yeah.
And the MSRP was 135, 140 grand. Now, that car with low miles is in the 300,000s, and the delivery mile cars are just insane.
Right.
6, 7, 8, 900,000. Someone's got one listed for $1 million right now, which I don't agree with. But
yeah,
it's crazy to think of how the times have changed.
I know. There's endless examples of cars I can think about that you could not give away. Yeah, the SLS Black Series could not. We had one at my former dealership. They were like, 300 grand for a Mercedes, you're crazy. No way. And now, if we all could go back in time and buy those cars at I'm sure, a very attractive price.
Oh yeah.
And now they're worth astronomical money. And that dealer group I was with at the time had a Dodge dealership as well. And I remember I was there up until about 2015, there were Vipers that they never sold,
Yeah.
right? Just nobody wanted them.
Sat there.
Yeah.
Give them away.
But look, if you want the crystal ball, my best guess is that if it is not hybridized, if it has a manual transmission, go ahead and buy it.
Yeah.
Right? Almost doesn't matter what it is. So, all right. Tally ho! Right, let's get a little Sprinter content in there. Okay. So, is it the red one?
No.
Oh, I was going to say that would be aggressive. A red passenger van?
Could be the black one right behind it.
Okay. Got the AC unit up there. Went with the low roof. Interesting. Black, #1 choice for passenger vans. White, #1 choice for cargo vans.
Yeah.
Got a little step in the back here, trailer hitch. So this was a total custom build. So they got it theoretically exactly the way they want it,
Yes.
which is great. You get a little bit of extra space. Now, 2 use cases primarily for a passenger van Sprinter, either a hotel or some other kind of transportation company that's using it to shuttle people. Interestingly, limo vans and the type of stuff that you typically see for like a party bus, they don't usually start with a passenger van shell, right? I mean, I don't know if you've learned that yet, but they'll typically go like a heavy duty cargo van
Yeah.
that's totally blanked out and build it from there because they're not keeping this configuration, right? But so you've got the hotels and any other kind of transportation company that might need the ability to ferry a lot of people, or I've seen people with like really big families, people that literally they've got maybe so many kids that you cannot fit in a minivan or a Suburban or whatever,
Yep.
and you almost have no choice but to drive a commercial vehicle. Or just people that want to, go on road trips and be able to bring a lot of friends and family with them. You still get a decent amount of space back here. You can remove this row if you want. Look, I love this kind of stuff. So you've got 3 rows here.
How many people?
So 3, 3, and 4. So you've got 10, 11, 12 with the driver. All right, so think about that. There's probably some minivans out there that you can do maybe 9 people if you've got like the front bench. I feel like that's making a comeback now. I don't know if you ever had a car growing up that had a front bench.
No, but I've seen them.
Yeah. So pretty much the max you can get from any other type of vehicle is like 8 passengers, maybe 9 if you've got a first row bench, which is like very old school. That's from when I was growing up, but I can't think of them, but there's some cars that are bringing that back. So yeah, 12 passengers. That's about as good as it gets. Now you can do a high roof, which would make this about 6 feet tall. So most people would be able to stand up in here. This is a low roof configuration, but you can see it has the full AC unit on top so that you're not limited to just vents in the front, which wouldn't really heat and cool the rest of the van very effectively. It's cool. I like people that think outside the box for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And what was the total MSRP on this one? It was $68,693, which that's probably the price of like a loaded up Toyota Sienna at this point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And here's the other thing about these. I don't know how much driving around you've done in them, but they're incredibly easy to drive. They drive like any regular minivan would drive.
Yeah.
They look bigger than they feel on the road. And you can option them up with a lot of really cool tech as well.